Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to take a look at the most underrated Pokemon for the Open Great League. I asked on Twitter for the community basically to say what Pokemon they think are underrated for the Open Great League. I also put in some of my own thought, of course, into the video as well. But also, for every Pokemon that we're going to take a look at today, we're going to have an example team as well, so you can try this one out as well then and see if it's actually underrated or overrated or whatever. But if you want some more teams, I already made a video yesterday about the top teams for the Open Great League. Definitely check this one out as well. Going to be linked in the end card. But let's move right on into the honorable mentions here. We're going to have some Pokemon that didn't really make it into the video, but I kind of wanted to still talk a little bit about them. They're going to be way more than those as well here. But for example, we have Dugong in here, which I feel like is a little bit maybe too meta for this video. Like, I still think that some Pokemon that I have in the video are also very meta. But I don't know, like Dugong was pretty common last season. This season not as much anymore because the meta kind of shifted against it with something like Poliwrath being a little bit more common. But we're going to have other Pokemon here like Chestnut, Shadow Bomber Snow, Kommo-o was nearly in there, Credility was nearly in there, Ferrothorn is a very decent pick, and Golbat is also a very solid one there. There were some more as well on Twitter that got suggested, but I feel like this does all make some kind of sense. All of them are kind of underrated. I feel like Credility especially was a little bit more common in the beginning of the season. I also made a video about the most buffed Pokemon for the season already at the start of the season, basically, where Credility was even on the thumbnail, so yeah. Definitely something that's also very solid to play though. Moving on to the first one though, we're going to have here from PvPoke suggested Skeldurge. Not every Pokemon in this video is going to be a suggested Pokemon. A lot of them are also something that I thought about myself. There were also a lot of them that I had to cut just because I kind of wanted to keep it at 10. But if you enjoyed this video, by the way, feel free to leave a like. Would really appreciate it. Also subscribe if you haven't already. This kind of helps out the channel quite a bit. And we're getting closer to 70,000. Maybe we can still hit it this year. Would be very nice. But let's move on here to Skeldurge. Skeldurge was able to win the last regional championship here in the US, which was really cool because like this was like the first time that this Pokemon won anything for Pokemon Go, and it's honestly really cool because it has access to the move Disarming Voice, and as a ghost type, having access to a move that's going to be able to hit the dark types for super effective damage is really cool and very unique. So I really like this Pokemon. With the Incinerate buff, this Pokemon got a little bit more play as well. Was already very solid last season when it was released, but very cool Pokemon now, rank 55, definitely solid as well. But let's take a look here at the example team. This was actually the team that Dunebug, who won the regional, suggested as well, but kind of was also what PvPoke suggested to me, which is going to be Skeldurge, the Cresselia, and the Altaria. One huge core breaker going to be here, the Bastion going to be able to completely destroy this team, but I still feel like it's going to be a solid one. It's like calculated risk basically again. If you are good against basically everything that is not a Bastion team, you're going to still have a great time. You could argue of going for something different over Altaria in the back to try to cover for Bastion, because still you have Grass on your Cresselia, you still have Fire typing, which is going to be neutral, same as the Shadow Ball on the Skeldurge, might be an option for sure. Moving on to the second Pokemon is going to be Stunfisk. I actually thought of putting both Stunfisk in this video because I feel like Galarian Stunfisk is very high rated, actually I think like rank 16 or whatever, but kind of underrated right now as well. I feel like it's going to be way more common in the next 2 weeks. But the normal Stunfisk is something that I feel like is also kind of underrated this season. While the win rate is not really looking that crazy here for this Pokemon, it is a very solid pick in the current meta. Here we're going to have an example team where we're going to have the Lickitung as a Sasop and the Altaria in the back. But if you take a look what Galarian Stunfisk can beat right now, it's going to be like something like Skarmory, which is super common. You can beat the Lantern, which is super common. You're going to be able to beat all the Flying type Pokemon, which is really nice, all the Steel type Pokemon, which is really nice. It's like a really cool core breaker for the Open Great League. And I kind of want to make a video about this Pokemon as well. It just looks like so much fun, and I think it's going to be one of the best Pokemon that you currently can run. You even have coverage for something like a Poliwrath, which is kind of wild, so like Thundershock plus Discharge. Mud Bomb got buffed like a few seasons ago as well, making this Pokemon a little bit better. I feel like normal Stunfisk is really underappreciated right now. I feel like it has a lot of play there, and yeah, basically the core between the Stunfisk and the Altarias I feel like really strong. One issue for this team might be Ice-type Pokemon, where you can consider something different in the back. I don't know, maybe a fighter or whatever, but I still think this team is going to be very solid for the current meta as well, so definitely something that is going to be interesting. Kind of really want to take a look at the normal Stunfisk again because I feel like it's so underappreciated right now. Moving on to the next one. Here we're going to have a suggestion which would have been in already anyway, no matter what Twitter would have said. It was already on my list, but here we're going to have the Pidgeot. Pidgeot is very underappreciated, and you see already the win rate and the losses. Like 32 wins and 13 losses in the one-shield scenario is absolutely wild. And it's only ranked 62 because it loses so hard against like Steel-type Pokemon because you don't really have coverage for them. But I feel like in the current time, it's really, really solid. Of course, one of the issues is going to be also something like a Lantern, but we're going to have a very standard line here, which is going to be very solid as well. Also against Lantern, which is going to be an ABB line with the Quagsire, the Sasop, and the Wishcast in the back. Going to be also one of the teams that I have already in the top team video as well, but with Skarmory in the lead as well, which is going to be a different option, but I feel like this Pokemon has a lot of play here. I would actually recommend you to go, by the way, for Awkward Tail on the Quagsire as a Sasop if you can, because it's going to be a little bit better against Skarmory. So let's move on to number 4. Number 4 is going to be something that Yasa suggested here with Surfetched, which I feel like is definitely something that is a very solid Pokemon. I like this Pokemon quite a lot. Haven't really got to use it recently, but I kind of want to try it out again. Like, the main benefit of Surfetched, like, this Pokemon has an insane attack stat, like, literally insane attack stat. But the cool thing about it is that it has Leaf Blade. Leaf Blade is going to be making this Pokemon so much uniquer, allowing it to have coverage against Lantern, as well as, like, the Mud Boys, which is really common right now as well. Plus, you're just going to have great coverage on the secondary slot as well. Night Slash allows you to hit Ghost types, which is really cool as a Fighting type Pokemon as well. But you're also going to have access to the move Brave Bird, which is a really great nuke for this Pokemon. So this thing has a lot of play. Here we're going to have a very standard line as well. We're going to have the lead of the Skarmory, the Sasop of the Surfetched, and the Swampert in the back. And I feel like this team is going to be so much fun to play. I kind of really want to try out Surfetched again, so most likely going to play something like this around it. But looks like a really solid lineup. Honestly, you can't go wrong with this one. And let's move on to the next team. Or like the next Pokemon, of course. We're going to have here the Shadow Granbull. Shadow Granbull is something that actually got suggested like 4 times, I think, under like the tweet that I did, and honestly I can see it. It is only ranked 288. Here what you can see on the screen right now, and you're gonna see it as well for the battle screen, is that this is going to be the 2-shield scenario for this Pokemon, because Charm in the 2 shields is way more effective than like the 1 or the 0-shield scenario. And for the team that we're going to play here as well, it's definitely worth it to go for that, because you're going to have it in the lead anyway, so you're going to have the 2 shields available for you. Sasop for this team is going to be the Swampert, allowing you to basically get out also the Fighting type Pokemon most likely, and so you're going to be able to then sweep endgame hopefully with the Galarian Stunfisk. You have 2 Pokemon in the back that can cover for the Fire type weakness, and you have 2 Pokemon in the back that can cover for the Steel type weakness of this Pokemon. So this team should work out pretty well as well, and I feel like it's a very underrated Pokemon. Moving on, we're going to have Greedent next. Greedent is going to be one of my favorite Pokemon, like at least last time I played it, which was also already in the first week. This Pokemon was insane, literally the best Pokemon in the team where I played it in. And Trailblaze gives him now access to a move that hits the Mud Boys and kind of one-shots most of them. Plus, you're going to be able to hit the Lantern for more damage. Plus, you're going to be able to buff your own attack, which is going to make Mudshot and Body Slam more effective. Like, this Pokemon was so much fun the last time I played it. And so I have another team here as well. You're going to have the Lantern in the lead. You can also go for either Poliwrath or the Medicham in the lead. Mainly Medicham, to be fair, to have like a little bit of a better insight against other Poliwrath. But here we went for the Lantern, also for Poliwrath mainly. But Sasop, Greedent, and the Lickitung on the back. And I feel like Lickitung as a closer might be a really good shout in the current meta as well, because everybody's either expecting it in the lead or as a Sasop. And here we can kind of bait out a potential answer for it with a Greedent as a Sasop, and still have our Lantern in the back and in the lead to basically cover for something like a Poliwrath with it, which is kind of cool. Very interesting team. Kind of want to try it out as well. I feel like this team also makes a lot of sense, so let's move on to the next one. Lurantis is next. Lurantis is one of the coolest Pokemon as well. Very fast Grass-type Pokemon, which is kind of rare. You're going to have access to Fury Cutter, generating energy really fast, but also Leaf Blade and Superpower gives it really great coverage. Kind of squishy, but definitely one of the better Grass-type Pokemon. Also one of the reasons why Chestnut is not in this video, because this is kind of Chestnut, but a little bit better in my opinion at the current time for the Open Great League at least. And as you're going to see here, this Pokemon is really decent against something like a Lickitung, against something like a Swampert. And so we're going to have a team that kind of tries to bait out those Pokemon with a Sasop here of the Lantern. Here we have Spark variant. You could even argue of going for the Water Gun variant for the Lantern as a Sasop. But yeah, both of them would be definitely fine here. We're going to have in the back the Galarian Stunfisk, and I feel like this is going to be a very solid lineup that you can play for sure. If you don't want to run the Lantern, you can also go ahead and go for something like the Sableye here, which would make it a little bit more of a classic line. But basically, you can bait out something like a Mud Boil, something like a Ground type in general, with the Lantern where you're still going to have Water type coverage on it, and then kind of run free with the Galarian Stunfisk in the back. Moving on, next Pokemon, we're going to have the Magnezone. The Shadow Magnezone to be like exact here, we're going to have the rank 59 actually, which is kind of high. Magnezone here, having access now to Volt Switch plus Wild Shot plus the Mirror Shot is going to make this Pokemon a very interesting breaker for the current meta. Especially as we're going to have a Skarmory meta, which, like, Skarmory's hardest answer is the Magnezone, which is kind of wild. And also it's going to be very decent against a lot of other Pokemon here, like Cresselia, like Carbink, like a Lantern, like the Bastion. You're going to be able to beat a lot of them. We're going to have a team here that I like a lot as well. We're going to have the Say-Swap of the Swampert against Registeel, by the way. I think you're going to be able to win the two-shade scenario as well, so like this is not going to be a loss. Swampert, Say-Swap, Cresselia in the back. Cresselia kind of covers everything that the Magnezone does not want to face, so I feel like this is going to be a very solid lineup as well. Would recommend you the normal Swampert if you have. Like, I feel like Shadow Swampert is not as ideal in the current meta, but I don't know, like this team looks really solid on paper in my opinion, and we can move on to the next one. Let's take a look at the next one. We're going to have another one here that was already in my top team video as well, which is going to be Trevenant, which is something that I kind of completely, underrated in the tier list that I did for the Great League, because look at the average rating, look at the win rate there, 28 wins, 17 losses, going to make this Pokemon a very great lead especially, and Shadow Claw, Seed Bomb, Shadow Ball is still going to give you great coverage in the current meta. And here we're going to have a team with a Lantern as a Say-Swap again, trying to bait out a potential Swampert. You can go again if you want to for the Water Gun variant over Spark, but I feel like Spark definitely has a little bit more play for this team, because Spark are going to be a little bit better against flying type Pokemon. But if you're going to be a little bit too scared about like something like Clodsire, which can be a little bit of a trickier Pokemon, maybe Water Gun would be the way to go for your Lantern. Bastion in the back is basically the perfect coverage for the Trevenant. Only real core breaker for this team going to be something like a Scrafty or the Obstagoon, which is basically nowhere to be seen. So yeah, that's this team going to be really good in my opinion. So definitely something you should try out. And we can now move on to the final one for today. And this is going to be Mew. Mew is a Pokemon that has a lot of different movesets. Here we went for the straight up like standard moveset of Surf plus Wild Charge. But you could argue for going for Dragon Claw, which is the cheapest move that it can get to, as well as going to give you coverage against like Pokemon like Dragonair in the current meta, which is kind of common. As well as you could go for Grass Knot, which is going to allow you to hit all the Water type Pokemon for super effective damage. And here we're going to have a team with the Carbink in the lead, the Say-Swap of the Mew, and the Deoxys defense in the back. Basically, Carbink is going to be able to counter especially something like a Sableye, but just going to be very neutral against a lot of Pokemon. Mew is really, not respected for the meta right now, so like using it as a Say-Swap I feel like is the best play for Mew in the current meta. And you can try to bait out anything that kind of wants to counter Psychic types, but here of course you're going to have great coverage, so a lot of people are going to give you a shield advantage. And then Deoxys defense in the back has to have Thunderbolt in order to hit like Registeel, which is an important matchup. Going to be in the back here to kind of cover up the Steel type Pokemon, still can have like the ABB style for a Psychic type Pokemon. I feel like this is going to be a great team as well, so that's going to be it for this video. Did you enjoy this video? Do you want to see more of this type of content? Then let me know in the comment section. That's going to be it for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to leave a like, and I'll see you then. Bye bye.